marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. To avoid gimmicks, call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 61, Friday partly sunny with a high near 83, and Saturday a chance for thunderstorms with a high around 85. Crooner's Supper Club is a little piece of old school nightlife in the 21st century. And before or after your show, check out the new Maggie's Lounge, a perfect place to visit with friends. It's open Wednesdays through Sundays beginning at 4:30 for cocktails and light fare. And you don't even need a ticket to enjoy the great atmosphere of Maggie's.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
Good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies are trying to be Indians anyway.
They're more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Haley, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
You're right, Daga, and this portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, you know, Haley, I hate to make you the odd person out, but this is going to be the Roberts show. We have Robert Lilligren on, and we also have Bob Blake from Red Lake, which I always love to say on a little later in the show, Robert Blake. And But, well, I guess you're not going to be too much outnumbered, because what I'd like to do is we have an update from the governor of the great state of Wisconsin. And why don't we take a quick listen from Governor Evers to start it out?
Hey there, Native Roots Radio. Governor Tony Evers here with my weekly update. Every Wisconsinite deserves access to clean, safe water, free of lead, PFAS, and other contaminants that have long been known to harm our kids, families, farmers, communities, and industries across our state. From declaring 2019 a year of clean drinking water and creating the state's PFAS Action Council, to filing a lawsuit against more than a dozen companies who contributed to PFAS contamination, My administration has been working to address water quality issues since day one, and I'm proud of the progress we made. I've also spent 4 years trying to get most of the Republican legislature to believe PFAS are a pressing threat to our state's economy, our health and well-being, and our way of life. And unfortunately, the work we must do to address PFAS and other contaminants grows harder and more expensive with each day of delay. So earlier this month, I was proud to sign a budget that included the first real and substantive Republican effort to address PFAS after years of inaction, with a $125 million investment to address and prevent PFAS contamination statewide. This budget also builds on our work to ensure Wisconsinites have access to clean water by providing $1 million to help private well owners clean up or replace contaminated wells, $4 million for the Urban Non-Point and Municipal Flood Control Program, and $6.5 million for grants under the Targeted Runoff Management Program. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that every Wisconsinite has access to clean, safe water, no matter whether it's for drinking in our homes and schools, for our crops or livestock, or our natural waters for hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation. And I know that together we will. Thanks for listening. Back to you, Robert, and Native Roots Radio. Hey there.
Hey, thanks, Governor Evers. Really appreciate that. And we welcome Robert Lilligren, a Native American Community Development Institute, our normal Thursday person. And Robert, I just got to say a big peeny-gigi thank you for stepping in and hosting the rest of the show. You did an awesome job as I was listening to it on my way to my appointment. So Brown Institute, big applause for you.
Thanks, Robert, and miigwech to Haley for all of her technical support, and really to the guest, Angela Two Stars, the artist and all my relations arts director. She is just so interesting. I could talk to her all night long.
Yeah, she did an awesome job. You're absolutely right. Hey, before we get going with our conversation that we both spent hours looking at things to
decades preparing for this conversation.
Right. I just want to let everybody know it's a really interesting thing about what PFAS is, what the governor talked about, and it's used to make household and commercial products that resist heat and chemical reaction and repel oil, stains, grease, and water. These are like major chemicals that are found in the water, and I've heard more and more about that, Robert. I don't know if you have, but it's real interesting that the governor's talking about that and fighting.
I agree. It's just it's interesting, more and more of these chemicals that we're using, the forever chemicals, and we need to figure out how to remediate them, right? And so it was encouraging to hear Governor Evers talk about legislation he signed. And if I heard him correctly, it's the first PFAS program in Wisconsin. So it seems kind of surprising that it would be the first this kind of late in the game, but there can't be a second or a third or a fourth until there's a first. So good news.
Yeah, definitely. And our struggles with our relatives in Wisconsin, I think, have slowed things down. And we've had some Republican governors over there in the past, and we won't get into that right now. But we're just glad that first, Governor Evers is there, and second, that he's sending us updates.
Agree. I think that's really a very considerate thing for him to do, and shows that he's really trying to reach out to a lot of communities that he represents. I give him credit for that.
Yeah, definitely. Really a nice guy. And Arvina talks about him, who Arvina is, matter of fact, guest host last week. She was first Madison Native American city council person. And she calls him our Mr. Rogers.
I'm sure out of affection. I'm sure that's
right.
affectionate.
Yeah, definitely in a good way, for sure. And I've gotten that mellow vibe, and I do believe he's a former teacher too. So there's a lot of good things there. Well, hey, I saw you today. What a beautiful
it was great
day
to see you.
To be on the avenue. Really, and our Ho-Chunk, a relative there helping you run that Destiny is just doing a bang up job this year. And I speak of the Four Sisters Market.
Yeah, our Four Sisters Farmers Market every Thursday, 11 to 3, right on Franklin and 15th in our building where Powell Grounds Coffee Shop is, our All My Relations Arts Gallery, our offices, and it is just a happening place. We had a native brother spinning discs, and he has this niche collection of native people in recording studios from maybe the 60s, 70s, 80s to today. And so some really interesting vintage stuff that he was spinning, and it's just a place to sort of see and be seen on the American Indian Cultural Corridor.
I'm sad. I'm sad to have missed that today. I wasn't
Gotta
able
come
to
down
make
here.
it out there. I know I had to take care of the grass was getting pretty crazy today. So
And it just grows and grows every week. It's just it's a
we
great
got
place to
rain
be.
last night though, which was good. Did you guys get rain over there in St.
A
Paul?
sprinkle in Minneapolis. A sprinkle.
Oh yeah.
2 flashes of lightning and a sprinkle of rain.
It got scared, and he's literally was spinning albums, the old school. And I went up and talked to him because I have some collector albums of tribes that people have sent me over. But he was
Cool.
speaking upon just his own tribe he was collecting, which I thought was interesting too.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. Nice.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either because I was like, "Hey, I got this," but he was like, he didn't care. He wanted one of those Lakota Dakota singers to be playing out there. But it was cool, very cool, nice background. It was a nice volume too. You know, you could still talk and hang out, and it's just not only it's a great place to really connect. And I ran into not only his Destiny, but there was 2 other Ho chunks that I ran into. Wendy Holgamo. Probably shouldn't say her last name, but Wendy.
I didn't
And
even see Wendy there. I didn't even see her. I must have missed her.
yeah, she was there for some chow she was getting for her and her dad. But I had an opportunity to talk to her, having a good little conversation, and then a couple other Ho chunks. But it's great. We can talk a little bit more about that, Robert, and maybe some updates. We got 2 more segments with you, so we'll talk a little slower if we don't have enough content.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm here with Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. We'll be right back.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Even though the public COVID-19 emergency might be over, it's still important to stay up to date on vaccinations. And if you're like most people, you probably need a refresher on who should get vaccinated and when. So here's the bottom line. If you're 6 years or older, aim for that one updated COVID-19 vaccine. It doesn't matter if you've had a previous vaccine or not. You're still in the game. Now, if you're 65 or older, you've got the green light for one extra dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Just wait 4 months after your first updated dose, and you're good to go. And for the little ones, children between 6 months and 5 years may need multiple doses, including at least one of the updated vaccines, based on their age and previous doses. Remember, always stay informed and reach out to healthcare professionals for personalized guidance. Didn't catch all of that? You can find all of the updated COVID vaccine information at health.state.mn.us. That's health.state.mn.us.
This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1, U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awakened. This is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Native American Community Development Institute in Minneapolis.
Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, Native American Community Development Institute, White Earth Ojibwe citizen, and all around a groovy dude. We're here having our own little conversation. It was fun. We were trying to explain people that we've been doing this, you and I, for a while on Native Roots Radio. And when we were a 2-hour show on Saturdays, we used to have to set aside an hour for our 10-minute segment because we're talking and having a good time and talking about, well, I think we were talking a lot about how well we see the future and the young ones coming up behind us and the future looking bright. It was a lot of times our conversation.
Agree. And now we kind of bring that conversation onto the air, right? We used to do all this backgrounding, and I was doing fact checking for our 10-minute pre-recorded segment. Now that we're live, we just kind of throw caution to the wind and just put it all out there. Very authentic conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And so I always like to pull what Wendy always says, and I bring this up too with Dr. Stately when he's on. Ask Robert what he wants to talk about is what Wendy will send me a note across the table here. And so what I'm going to do, Robert, is going to, ask a little bit of what you want to talk about. And I know I was feeling really bad that I missed the opening at the opening art exhibit.
Yeah. So one of the things my organization does on the American Indian Culture Corridor is we operate All My Relations Arts Gallery, and it's a bigger program too. But our gallery is this small but mighty space. It's really launched careers of a lot of internationally famous Native artists, and we had a new exhibition open. And Angela Two Stars, who's the director of All My Relations Arts, and I talked about this a bit last week. But it's this great new exhibition by a Native artist, Laura Youngbird from Grand Portage. And it's called, in English, My Heart Hurts. In Ojibwe, it's Indowisagandam, or something close to that. And it's just as powerful as can be. And Laura Youngbird, the artist, was down and did an artist talk. We had an opening reception last Friday. But if anyone's in the area, I would strongly encourage you to come on down. The show's up till September 9th. And All My Relations Arts right on East Franklin Avenue and 15th Street in South Minneapolis. And did you get a chance to look at the exhibit?
Yeah, I did. I was in there for a little bit, but my ADHD was running wild because I was trying to get out of there real quickly. I had to drop off a couple things, and a half hour later, I got to leave.
Right, yeah, that happens around there. And Laura Youngbird uses a lot of imagery of the dress, from reminiscent to photos of her grandmother, or her mother used to make she and her family, their clothes and their dresses. And so dresses, and of course, red dresses evoke so much in the community about missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives. And so it's powerful, and it was great. I love going to the artist talks and hearing the artist talk about their inspirations.
Yeah, I have to say this too, because I think there's a lot of fans out there. During the Four Sisters Market, there's almost every week there is a famous author that's there. And really a big seller, and we've had her on the show.
Marcy Rendon,
yeah. So if you ever want to get an autographed copy, and I was just thinking about that, Robert, if you ever want to get an autographed copy or buy one of her books, she is there.
Yep, she is a vendor at the Four Sisters. Yeah, almost every week. Her daughter Simone Rendon is one of our vendors, and sells her own line of food. And I'm actually looking at Marcy Rendon's book right here because I have it teed up to read next. Murder on the Red River. That's gonna be my next read. So yeah, and she's big time, right? Award-winning, famous author.
And we had her daughter on too, and I know we were talking earlier a couple weeks ago that one of the TV stations here had a real shoot. I mean, it was 5 6 minutes piece on her and her
Yeah.
jellies and jams and how she makes those. And there was
She
what
brought
was the
some
thing that you liked,
samples.
Haley? Haley, what was the thing that you liked? I can't remember.
Oh, she forages these like pine cones, and then she makes pine cone
Yes.
cookies, and they were amazing. I didn't know that you could eat pine cones, but yeah, it's a thing, and they're delicious.
When they were on television, so Destiny, our market manager, Ho Chung's sister Simone, and I don't think the hosts really liked the pine cone cookies.
Oh.
They tried them, but I think it was a little too indigenous for them. But they tried them. But yeah, that was a huge segment. It promoted Simone's work, the Four Sisters
Mhm.
Farmers Market.
Yeah.
Our little market is, draws a lot of attention.
Yeah, yeah, and it's exciting, and there's people, and again, people driving by and honking, and it's like, who is that? And my next, I can't see, but there's a lot of action happening there, and I just have to say this too, Robert, that avenue has changed so much and turned into the native corridor in a really really good way because we're old enough to remember all the bars and all the
Oh
things,
yeah.
the riffraff, and it's a good vibe during the day there.
It's a great vibe, and it's really the community expressing itself. It's one of the few areas in the country, really, where you have a geography that is so strongly identified with the native community. And, it feels native, the build architecture, the street furniture, and then the activation of it, right? The murals, the markets, the events, and we have a couple of really important pieces of architecture coming online next year. Next May, our American Indian Center, Minneapolis American Indian Center, will open their newly renovated and expanded building.
Wow.
It's beautiful. And the Native American Community Clinic just up the block is
Yeah.
has started on their new building, which will combine community services and housing.
Yeah. We had Dr. Stately on yesterday, and just
Yeah.
the crazy things that are happening there, and all the work that the Native American Community Clinic does is
Mhm.
amazing. And it's kind of hard, and I think you probably maybe run into this too with NACDI, is that it's hard to not be everything to everyone, but it's also a detriment too because you can't focus in, and you know what I mean? I think the
Oh
clinic
yeah.
has that problem, and there's so much to be done.
Right. There's so much need in the community, right? And we have a rich community of nonprofits and clinics that offer services to the Native community. I mean, it's wonderful to see. And Native American Community Clinic and Dr. Anthony Stately and their work is a great example of that. We have Indian Health Board, an urban Indian Health urban clinic. We have just from where we were standing today at Four
Yeah.
Sisters Farmers Market, within maybe 6 blocks, there's 40 or 50 native serving organizations, tribes, educational institutions, and right there in this very definable part of South Minneapolis. And that's where we get the traction for the American Indian Cultural Corridor, right? A destination in
Mhm.
South Minneapolis. And it's feeling good. It's feeling good.
Yeah.
And we still have our troubles. I noticed just about a block from our offices and could see a group of our unsheltered relatives mobilizing and establishing a new encampment there. And so that
Mhm.
was kind of moving around, and they're part of our community too, right? And we work to figure out how to best support and serve our relatives living without shelter.
Yeah, I mean, what a great point too. They are part of our community, and one of the things too that we see people that look like us all up and down the avenue, and also, at the market and at the doctors, at the library. I mean, there's just so much going on there, and
Mm.
in such a good way. But I want to keep you for another segment and a half if you have time. Um, I do want you to talk about what you'd like to talk about, Robert, because I kind of tricked you there. I was asked you to talk about what you want to talk about, and then I went into a question. So I want you to be able to speak your truth.
All right. It sounds good.
Well, we still have a minute left. Well,
Oh, okay. I thought you were transitioning us out. So, yeah. So just, I mean, to your last point, after I left my office today, then I went a block or maybe two to a tribally owned pharmacy, Mashkiki Wakagan Medicine House, and it's this great model where, as a tribal citizen or a native person, I don't have to pay. I use my insurance, and then they have a model that's not profit driven, right? And so people like me are subsidizing other people, but no native person, only native people are patients there, and no native people pay anything. So no co-pays or anything. And then from there, I had to stop and get some cash at a native-owned bank, Woodlands National, just up the block on the American Indian Culture Corridor. I'm like, this is so cool. This is so cool that I have this, right here, right in my immediate environment.
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that. I was going to mention the bank too, but hey, we're going to hang out a little bit more with Robert Lilligren, and then up next, Robert Blake after that. So, hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hey, this is Robert Pilot. I taught in St. Paul Public Schools for over 25 years, and I want you to join the team and make a difference in our children's future. Right now, St. Paul Public Schools is offering hiring and retention bonuses up to $10,000 for a variety of teaching and classroom support positions for the next school year. Grow in a supportive and fulfilling public school setting. Limited bonuses are available, so don't delay. Apply at spps.org/careers. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. Attention art enthusiasts, experience Laura Youngbird's Indie Wisigindum, My Heart Hurts, a solo exhibition by Laura Youngbird presented by All My Relations Arts this summer. All My Relations Arts aims to foster connections between contemporary American Indian artists, preceding generations, diverse audiences, and the vitality of the American Indian cultural corridor. Laura Youngbird is a talented artist from the Minnesota Chippewa Grand Portage Band that uses the dress as a metaphor to address social issues, injustices, and biases. Through mixed media combining drawing, painting, and prints, Laura explores the dress as a powerful symbol in her work, revealing layers of meaning. Her series examines mixed emotions and themes like common threads, loose ends, and vulnerability. And you could see Laura Youngbird's Inde Wisigindum, My Heart Hurts, all summer through September 9th at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. Plan your visit and let the moving art speak to your heart. More information at allmyrelationsarts.org.
It's 2023, and you might think COVID is behind us. Unfortunately, it is still with us, and there are important steps you need to take if you or a loved one is at risk of contracting COVID-19. First, every home in Minnesota is eligible to order 8 rapid at-home COVID-19 tests for free once a month at sayyeshometest.org. Even if you have ordered tests before, you can order again. You can do the nasal swab test anywhere and get results in about 15 minutes. If there's a positive test, treat symptoms with rest, fluids, and pain relievers. However, if you're over 65 or have chronic medical conditions, contact your healthcare provider immediately. Follow your provider's advice on care and home isolation. Watch for worsening symptoms or emergency warning signs. Your provider might suggest using a home pulse oximeter to monitor oxygen levels. If symptoms worsen or emergency signs appear, seek medical attention immediately. Find more tips on continuing to be safe at health.state.mn.us.
This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health. With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 61, Friday partly sunny with a high near 83, and Saturday a chance for thunderstorms with a high around 85. At Crooner's Supper Club, the entertainment doesn't stop when the show ends. Head over to Maggie's Lounge for some post-show drinks and great conversation. You'll love the relaxed and friendly atmosphere. That's Maggie's Lounge at Crooner's Supper Club off Moore Lake and Highway 65, or at croonersloungemn.com.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Minnesota 350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Yes, they do. Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, and we're wrapping it up with a little bit here with Robert. And Robert, again, what would you like to talk about?
Why don't you tell me, Robert? You're so good at it. Tell me what I want to talk about. I mean, we could talk about anything. We haven't touched on any national kind of topics, but there's the pending criminal charges toward Trump. There's the 16 fake electors from Michigan that are now getting criminally charged. And this is all very interesting. So I'm happy to go in that direction or continue to talk about local stuff. But there's one kind of national thing, or a national data point that I haven't really seen a lot in the media. And I just wanted to lift that up. And, folks know, or I'm still part of government. I'm a representative on our regional government, the Metropolitan Council. And, we're just now preparing to start doing our 2050 comprehensive plans throughout this region. And we're in this era where things like COVID and the whole pandemic response has left us really uncertain about what the future is going to be like. And of course, then George Floyd's murder here, it just changed everything, or sort of turbocharged everything. So we're just in this kind of confusing place where we can't really look to the past to gauge what the future will be in development in the region or transit use. We run the transit system, wastewater use. It's a time of uncertainty. So one of the things that a lot of folks did during the pandemic and the stay-at-home period was just kind of predict the doom of central cities. No one's going to go back to work, and you're not going to need any transit, and cities are just going to die. And we're just seeing different things, different kinds of things happen within cities and in workplaces. And one of the data points that I think is really, really interesting is women in the workforce. And of course, women left the workforce much higher rates because suddenly they had to fall into these roles of caregivers and educators, and they left the workplace, and there was a lot of progress lost. Like I think it was like 50 years of advancement of women in the workplace, and now what's happening is that women have not only returned to the workplace, they've returned to the workplace in a strong way where women's participation in the workplace is higher than it was before COVID. And that's just a fact, and so there was all this concern that, women will never make up the lost ground from the COVID era. Well, women have more than made it up. And another tidbit or another little fact is that the gender pay gap is now the narrowest ever, the narrowest on record. And it's still not closed. A woman earns now 85 cents for a dollar a man earns, but that's up. It's the smallest pay gap in our history. And I just think that's interesting. And so, we have these crises and these catastrophes like a pandemic. And then all of a sudden we're seeing kind of progress made as we recover.
Right. Well, the word crisis comes from the Chinese symbol that is merged, dangerous, win, and opportunity. Every crisis is a dangerous opportunity, as we both
Yep.
know.
Yep. And so I guess it maybe is dangerous to the status quo. Uh, that's just fine with me. But
Yeah.
it's just, these things, our economy is doing well, or,
Mhm.
unemployment is down. There's these positive things going on, and they just never really reverberate through a lot of the media. And that was just one that's really caught my attention this week.
Yeah. Well, Robert, I have Robert in the bullpen here, and I want to really thank you
Yeah.
for all the work you do. And it's always good to see you, and it's always really good to see you here on Native Roots Radio, because we have fun, and it's also very informative for our listeners what's going around here in the Twin Cities and Indian Country, and our perspective on the news.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. See you, Haley. Get
All
well,
right.
my man.
We'll see you soon, Robert. Hey, we have Bob Blake from Red Lake. Good to see you, Robert, with the Solar Bear with the solar news. How's it going, my man? I see your lips are moving, but I don't hear anything. Where's my mute? Where's my
there you go. That I had my mute button on. Sorry about
my
that.
coffee cup there?
Yep. You're on mute. Yep, I got that. Hey everyone, the Solar Bear with the solar news here. Hey Robert, the hottest day ever has been recorded out in Death Valley, California.
Yes.
And it was at 134 degrees. And I think this is interesting because this relates to a lot of what you and Robert Lilligren were talking about, and about cities, and how there was that interesting mention about people are moving away from cities, or they're moving back in. There's this demographic change. Well, I think with climate change, it's going to really affect a lot of different aspects of city life, because if you just recently saw the news, the out in, I believe it was Phoenix, Arizona, an overnight temperature, Robert, was 95 degrees.
Ugh.
I mean, how does the human body cool down? From the day, right? And so,
Mhm.
I think these are some really interesting conversations, because we have to start considering, how do we best address this, especially in cities. And one of the things that Robert, I ran for city council, and one of the what I was advocating for was, glow in the dark bike lanes around the city, because first of all, I think that's going to make our communities more safer, and it's going to get more people out using bikes. And trust me, kids are just going to love riding glow in the dark bike lanes. That's just one thing. And the other thing is, I think in a lot of these abandoned lots where we have, properties that are up for sale and they're not for sale, or whatever, abandoned properties too. But in these green spaces, we really talk about maybe putting in city gardens and bringing communities together through food, through growing gardens, through breaking bread with one another. And what happens is that these gardens end up becoming, carbon sinks, so to speak. And they become air conditioners for the city themselves, because it's going to keep these areas cool at night. Yes, exactly. So Nina's actually, this is right. And so that's really what a lot of those kinds of gardens can do. And I think those are great ways to bring community together, make it safer. Also a great way to get to know your neighbor, but also, because of all the concrete that we have in the city, and that traps the heat, that I think we're going to have to really start thinking outside the box, as cities, and looking at this as potential ways of fighting the extreme effects of heat that are going to be affecting our cities in so many different ways.
It's always warmer in the cities, Robert. Anyways, whether it's the buildings are keeping the heat in, but now it's really getting horrific. And also what Nina said, that it was crazy when the desert can't cool off at night. And that's a unbelievable statement, but so true.
Yeah, and I think that those are really issues that, because and I always tell people, or I always go back to when those individuals were in Chicago and they died in their apartments, and it was literally because they were cooking, they cooked to death. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And because of
Right.
the heat from the outside and the apartments, and that the heat wave just and of course they wanted to keep their windows closed because they're afraid of somebody breaking in and causing them harm, but they also wanted to try and keep what little cold air they had. So but those are some of the things that I think that we really have to seriously think about as we have these extreme heat waves. They're going to become more and more prevalent, and a bigger piece of our everyday life going forward.
Yeah, and that's remember this last winter here in Minnesota, we had the third largest snowfall in recorded history, and then we had flooding, and then we haven't had hardly any rain to speak of since then. So the rivers and lakes are low, and so it kind of lulls us into sleep, going, "Oh, look at all this moisture here in snow," but you have to keep it going. And Mayflowers, April showers bring Mayflowers, and we haven't had a spring in so long here in Minnesota. It just either jumps right to summer, where we had over 90-degree weather, uh, in early April, May.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. And so the jet stream is obviously not I would say normal into what we would usually think it is, and that's because of climate change, man-made climate change. And so that jet stream is knocked off, and so it's bringing down colder air a lot sooner than we expected. It's our winters are starting later. There's more moisture that is being picked up from the West Coast. It's being dropped into the East Coast now. So imagine big lakes up in the atmosphere that are coming down on the East Coast, and that's why you have all this flooding right now, and you have all this dry weather, all these fires that are going to be happening here on the western side, because it's picking up all the moisture and dropping it down on the eastern side of the United States. So these are all situations that we're going to have to get our heads wrapped around, and it's obviously something that I think is going to be a part of what you and Robert were just recently talking about, and it's going to affect that too.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Robert, we got to take a quick break here, and then we'll talk more Solar Bear with the solar news, and maybe rename the show Robert's Native Roots Radio. Oh, wow. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, along with Robert Blake and earlier Robert Lilligren. Sorry, Haley. We'll change your name to Robert here.
Roberta.
There you go. Oh, we'll be right back after this short break. Please
Stay with us.
Stay with us. Hey.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas will help you get where you want to go. Located in downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality at Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas. Apply today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
Your neighbors are talking about the Blue Line extension, connecting North Minneapolis, Crystal, Robbinsdale, and Brooklyn Park to the light rail transit system.
I feel like a lot of times people, when they think about transit, it's like, well, it's a bus, it's a train, it's whatever. But it really isn't. It's a lifeline for many communities, and it feels like something that we really need here.
Hear more of this story and others at yourblueline.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, we had a half muted Bob Blake wolf howling. That was good. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio. I'm here with Robert Blake and Solar Bear with the Solar News, and we're talking about some real stuff, real issues here. And sometimes, Robert, it's hard to hear, hard to listen to because it's so real and in our face, you know, and you can't deny it, even though there may be a portion of our society that wants to deny it. I mean, I would never thought that we would have fires in Canada would affect us here in Minnesota, but all over the United States too.
Well, you know, and I think that's what Native people have always known, right? Everything is connected, and you know, it really is, Robert. I don't even want to know all this. I mean, I scare myself knowing all this. You always, you know, but you want to. It's almost discouraging sometimes, but like, you know, that, you know, the opportunity is there for us to really change our future if we want to. And, you know, that movie, Don't Look Up, with Leonardo DiCaprio and, you know, all that star-studded cast, that was such a great play on like the climate change issue. Like, you know, it's obviously right there. We can see it. They could see the comet coming at the planet, but yet we still don't want to acknowledge that this is going to happen. You know what I mean? We see the fires, we see the flooding, we see all the natural disasters, we see the tornadoes. I was out at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory a couple of weeks ago, and I had one of the meteorologists telling me, "Oh, we can't predict, we can't tell you if the tornadoes are more stronger, you know, scientifically because of climate change." And I got up and I said, "Don't tell these people that. Do not say that. That is wrong to say that. We can't tell that the tornadoes are more frequent and they are stronger because of climate change. Do not say that. Take that back." This meteorologist did not take it back, but she did say, she goes, "Well, they are happening more frequently, we are seeing." Okay, give me that at least. Don't tell me I'm a liar in front of all these people. But like, these are the individuals that are out there sitting there saying and telling people that everything's okay when they know that the science is telling them something different. As a matter of fact, Robert, this goes into the next story about the United States Army and how the Army is looking at climate change in the future. And get this, Robert, the U.S. Army's climate strategy was announced last year, okay? And it included a pledge to add a microgrid in every one of its hundreds of installations by 2035. Every Army base across this country is now slated to get a microgrid. Now, when I tell you this, Robert, what does the Army know that the rest of society doesn't know if they're moving on this action now around, you know, climate change, right?
Exactly.
And what I'm saying, Robert, is don't believe me. Look at what the United States Army is doing. You know what I mean? Like, don't listen to the solar bear. Listen to the United States Army and look at what they're doing. They're telling you that this is a problem. We're preparing for it, and you should be too. You know what I mean? You should be thinking about this. We should be voting in climate champions. I'm on the board of directors for the Minnesota Solar Energy Industry Association. Robert, we had State Representative Jamie Long yesterday talk to us about all the wonderful legislation that was passed in the state of Minnesota. And Minnesota is now, I mean, we're going to leapfrog every other state in the Midwest around climate change and around renewable energy issues with all of this positive, legislation that came out from the state here. And it is exciting. It's going to be exciting. And I can't begin to tell you, Minnesota, all the great things that are going to be coming down the line and how we are going to be battling climate change and taking this, head on.
And you'll be reporting on it. Hey, Robert, what was the name of that movie again that Leo was in again?
Oh, Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up.
One of the most significant things in that movie too was that Leo was dating somebody his own age, or was married to someone that was roughly his own age in there. I would just throw some humor in there real quick.
Yeah, he's been known to date the models, actually.
Right. But the actor that was playing his opposite, his wife, was his age, so it was like, good on you, Leo, one in a row.
Well, I'm sure he's got like $1 billion bank account. I mean, makes him very attractive.
Just joking about him because he'll be starring in that next movie coming up with his buddy Marty Scorsese. That's coming up real soon. Flowers of the Moon.
Yeah, Flowers of the Killer Moon. Robert, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I would really, because this goes out to tribal country, and I really want tribes to understand. When you look at that situation that happened with the Osage in this movie, Flowers of the Killer Moon, we see another opportunity that's happening here in tribal country right now around hydrogen projects, renewable energy projects, energy projects that are going to bring a lot of wealth to Native country. And just like the oil brought a lot of wealth to the Osage in there, there was a lot of greed, and there was a lot of, backhanded dealings and everything like that. And so I just want tribal country to be well aware of the cautionary tale that is from this movie. I think it's a very, I think the movie right now coming out is at a very significant time in tribal country, with all the money coming into tribal country, flooding in to do renewable energy and energy development, and how we as Native people, let's not like lose our values. Let's keep this, let's understand that a lot of these people are experts in their field. Let's listen to them. Let's take their advice. Let's use what we can from them, but let's not like our values. Let's keep our value system in doing all this, because I think, Robert, that there is just going to be, from my viewpoint, a lot of energy development in tribal country and a lot of dollars being passed around. And I just don't want, Native people to get hurt is really what I don't want to happen.
Well, absolutely. And I think even with the monies that was coming out earlier on broadband and things like that, a lot of Native communities learned the hard way to read the fine print, so to speak, because there's companies out there that know that there's money coming in Indian country, and they might want to take an advantage of that. And so to have somebody like you with the energy as a consultant, and people that you work with, to work with the community, and do you become your own energy company, or how do you partner in a good way with existing energy companies, and when do the batteries come in, and when do you use them, and when do you sell back, and all those things that your experience has really brought you to this point today, that we all need to reach out to the experts when we're dealing with all this money coming into Indian country, so to speak.
Yeah, the devil's in the details. That's the old saying. The devil is in the details. And like you said, Robert, reading that fine print, because there's a lot of individuals that are going to take advantage, or try to take advantage of our people. And I just want them to be conscientious of that. And so that's why I say this movie with the Flowers of the Killer Moon, wow, what a really kind of significant time does this thing come out and be a cautionary tale to Native country.
Exactly. Robert, really good talking to you. I'm glad you were able to come on today and complete the trifecta of Roberts. But it's always good to see you, and I can't wait to reach out to you here in the next few days about what's happening and, in our nation and things that are happening and in a good way, and the things that you're doing just to amplifies how much you are helping other nations across the country. And so I appreciate our little time together once a week or once every other week, because you are the man, you are a doer. So Pini Gigi.
Thank you, Miigwech, Robert. And thank you for having me, everyone. That's the Solar News with the Solar Bear.
Right on. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier now.
This is Elizabeth, the host of Exploring Sovereignty with Elizabeth.